please like and subscribe. And please give me any comments or suggestions. I would love to hear them. Tonight I've got a scary story for you. When I was 16 years old, I lived in Wyoming, in the foothills of the Wolf Mountains, in a little house with my family. It was very remote. Just hills, gray hills covered with sagebrush, and the wind would just whip through there. The house was a trailer that had a extension put onto it. It was a nice place to live. It seemed like a decent home. It was quiet and seemed to be peaceful. But the longer we lived there, the more we realized that it was anything but a peaceful house. It started shortly after we moved there. There were these bugs. They call them box elder bugs. And that summer they were everywhere. Only thinking back on it now, I wonder if it was only at our house. But they were everywhere in that house. They were on the walls outside. They would cover the deck. These little black and orange bugs. Sometimes when you'd get up in the morning, you would have squashed box elder bugs in your bed. They were swimming in the toilet. It was really, really gross. But not only that, sometimes a very strange smell, like rotting meat, would be coming out of our basement. And we had a very strange sound that would occur at the same time. It was almost like the pipes in the walls were singing. They would hum and whistle. This very low sound. It was very, very strange. Not only that, after a few weeks, my brother started having nightmares. Horrible night terrors. About this arm, a severed arm that would come into his room through his window and try to grab him with claws for fingernails. My parents would try to wake him up. When he'd start screaming, he would wake all of us. But he wouldn't wake up. Not really. He would just sit up in bed, screaming with his eyes wide open, unable to come out of that dream state. Dreams are one thing. There were so many other things that happened at that house. Strange things that you couldn't explain. I don't even know why the house was like this. It was new. I actually knew the girl whose parents had built the house and had been to slumber parties over there when we were in 8th grade before she moved. But I don't know. The house had another structure on it. It was an old abandoned house, probably from the 1910s. It was up on cement blocks out in a cow pasture. Maybe it was haunted. I don't explore it to see if we could find any treasure or secrets, I guess. But there was never anything there. Just more box elder bugs. One night I remember sitting in the living room with some friends I had over and one of my brothers. We were watching some stupid movie on TV. We heard a strange sort of strange scraping noise. We didn't know what it was. We looked over to our left, where my mom had a upright piano. It was old, and she had potted plants on top of it, and there was a small little planter there, and it was very slowly inching across the top of the piano. We all sort of looked at each other, and then my brother said, "Hey, who wants to go into town and get some french fries at Perkins?" Perkins was the local place we could go to eat. All of us couldn't get out of there fast enough. We ran to the door. We were in the car and out of the driveway as fast as we could. It was very strange. But the scariest thing that happened to me while I lived in that house didn't involve bugs or an arm or a nightmare or things moving on their own. It involved something else. I know it wasn't a dream because my mom experienced it with me. I woke up out of sleep one night in my room. I could hear something, but I wasn't sure what it was. You know those moments when you're kind of half asleep and half awake. My room was weird. I had the old master bedroom from when the trailer was only a trailer and didn't have this big addition built onto it. There are some perks of being the oldest. And sometimes things would happen in there. My closet doors, I would close them at night because closets are scary, right? Even when you don't live in a haunted house. I would close them every night, and some mornings I would wake up and they would be open. The stuffed animals that I had shoved in there would sometimes fall out on the floor. And I would also receive what I called gifts. Strange things appearing in my room, on my pillows, on my windowsill. Bracelets, woven bracelets, and so I had a barrette, it was made out of some sort of metal. It was woven flowers in it. It was very beautiful, but very old. I have no idea how it got there. It was strange, but that night was different. conversation, but none of them were speaking any language that I had ever heard of before. It was something else. It wasn't English. It wasn't French or Spanish or Italian or Latin or any of the native languages that I had heard before. It was something completely different, and it had almost an electric, staticky kind of sound to it, like little pops and snaps, like you would hear in static. But it was definitely voices, more than two, maybe 3 or 4 people, all males, talking right outside my window. It was terrifying. I didn't know what I should do. Do I lay in bed? Do I just not move and hope that it goes away? Do I scream? Do I run for help? I laid in bed for a few moments trying to figure out my next step. What should I do? And then the noises just continued. It wasn't going to go away. The voices were there. So I climbed out of bed and I got down on my hands and knees, as low to the ground as I could, and crawled to my door. By that point, the voices had changed their direction. They were no longer coming from my window, but they were coming from the other side of the wall. I opened my door and crawled out into the hallway. I could hear them following me from the outside wall to my left as I crawled down the entire length of the hallway. Somehow they knew where I was on the other side of that wall. I got to the end of the hall and I looked to my left. My parents' bedroom was located across the living room from where I stood. And that entire wall that I needed to go past was floor-to-ceiling windows and a sliding glass door, which of course my parents never kept locked because we lived in the middle of nowhere and everybody pretty much trusted everybody else out there. I didn't want to look out at the deck. I didn't want to know what was really out there. But I couldn't stand in the hallway all night, terrified. So I ran probably 20 feet to my parents' room. We had a very large living room. I opened up the door and my mom was there, sleeping. I woke her up and I could now hear the voices coming from the window in her room. She could hear them too. We sat there together on the bed, just holding each other. And she said, "Why does this shit always happen when your father isn't home?" And I looked at her and said, "What do you mean, Mom? Shit as in plural. Shit, like this happens all the time." And she didn't say anything. Suddenly, the noises, the voices just stopped. They were gone, just like someone had turned off a radio. My mom and I had enough courage then to look out the window. We couldn't see anything. And then we looked out the glass windows, the floor-to-ceiling windows in the living room at the hill behind our house. And we could see these glowing balls of light just zipping across the hill, zigzagging across the hill until they reached the top of the hill and then coming back down. My mother picked up the phone and called our neighbors to see if they could see if there was maybe someone on the hill from their house, but they couldn't see anything from where they were. And then, all of a sudden, when my mother hung up the phone, about 2 minutes later, they just stopped and they were gone. About a month later, we took an unplanned vacation to my grandparents' house in Indiana, and we were there for about a month. When we came home, we had a different house. I don't know what it was that my dad finally saw that convinced him that we needed to get out, because he won't talk about it. But we didn't stay there for long after that night. My mother got a call from the next person who rented that home about 3 months after we moved out. She said she was calling because there was something wrong with the plumbing or something else with the house. And my mother told her that she just needed to leave because there was something wrong with the house, but it had nothing to do with plumbing. The woman just said, "Thank you. That's exactly what I needed to know." And she hung up. Sometimes when I think about that house, I just wonder if I will ever know what caused what happened there, and if anyone else after the next tenant experienced what we experienced there. My father still won't talk about what happened at that house, so I may never know. I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope it scared you a little bit. Please send